Hey there, I'm Kathy with the Traveling Homesteader and Gyroscope Farm, and today I'm going to bring you on a little bit of an adventure. I'm going to go and have some things freeze-dried at a neighbor's house. And this process is something that's new to me, and I thought I'd try to share it with you in case you hadn't seen it before. I had actually been trying to decide how to preserve things in a different way. And one thing I did was pick these blackberries, and I flash froze them, and I put them in this gallon bag. And by freeze drying things, this helps supposedly with the process of freeze drying, and it goes slightly faster. But I'm going to have these blackberries and some raspberries and hopefully a liver all freeze dried, and hopefully I'll learn the process with my friend up the hill. And basically, this allows this food to keep the majority of its freshness while dried, and so you can store it shelf stable without having to worry about, like in this case, if I kept it in my freezer, I have to worry about my freezer dying or like not having electricity for some reason, whether it's a freak electrical, outage, or if the weather goes bad, But I also don't have to prepare it for canning like in jam or jelly or pie filling. So this freeze drying allows me to have yet another way to preserve my foods for eating down the line. So come with me and check it out and see what we learned today. Hey there, I just wanted to let you all know that if you're interested, I am now a published author of sorts. I've actually published 5 different journals that are 150 line pages for you to fill in yourself. If you're interested, you could use them for personal journals, for guest books, for what you do in your garden, or how you're becoming more sustainable in your own life, or for whatever reason you might need a lined book. You can find them by looking up Journals by Kathy Manning, or clicking on the link down below, and you'll see the 5 different options that I've posted so far. And keep updated, you may find more to come. So I'm up at Rick's house, and Rick has very nicely offered his freeze dryer to help try to learn, as we both, I think, learn how to do berries in his freeze dryer. So we're just laying them out on the tray. And since I have essentially 4 1-gallon bags of blackberries and 2 heavy quarts of red raspberries, and then this liver, we're going to see how it all turns out. So Rick, what is your process on freeze drying?
Well, the big thing is to get the right amount on the trays. So we'll spread these out, and so they just have plenty of area where the moisture can get out of the berries. So
Sweet.
that's the biggest thing. But as I got older, canning wasn't as much fun anymore. So I just wanted an easier way to preserve food. So freeze drying, you actually get more nutrient value from between freeze drying and canning.
That's what I thought I heard. So isn't it like 90%?
Yeah, there's about a 40% difference. You lose about 50% of your nutrition when you can, and you'll only lose maybe 5 to 10% when you freeze drying.
Wow.
And the freeze drying stuff comes out about the same as when you put it in. So and it'll store for, a lot of times I can like 400 or 500 quarts a year.
That's a lot.
And then they get stuck in storage, and then pretty soon after 4 or 5 years you got to throw everything out. So freeze drying, you put it in your Mylar bags, and it'll store for 25 years.
Wow. So from here, once it goes through your freeze dryer, then when we take it out, I can take it and put it in my vacuum sealer, and
You pretty much need to put it in Mylar bags.
Okay.
And then you can either do oxygen absorbers, which is probably the best way, and just throw a couple packets of your oxygen absorbers in and seal it up, and you're good to go.
Sweet.
It's that simple.
Awesome. I'm kind of liking this process more and more.
So you can see how easy it is. Then with canning, you always got to watch your canner all the time and make sure the pressures are right. This, you put it on trays, put it in the freeze dryer, push a button, and you're done.
That's awesome. So we're just making sure they're all kind of evenly layered out, right?
Yep.
That's like bonus points that you could share a tray.
Yeah, no big deal.
And almost thankfully in the end you could just pick it out, right?
Yeah, and I'll show you some examples of freeze-dried stuff that I have done. Stuff in bulk.
Yeah.
They're on sale, and then you can freeze-dry things up. Save a lot of money that way. And
Yeah.
Just your leftovers when you got a big pot of stew and you only eat so much. You can freeze-dry the rest and have stew.
So you can do stew the same way you're doing this, right? Just by I mean, in this case the berries are frozen, but the stew you can just put down fresh and then put it in the freeze dryer and it does freezing, drying, and all on its own, right?
Yeah, you can do it that way. I like to put it in the trays and then pre-freeze it.
Okay.
It cuts down a lot of time in the freeze dryer.
Okay.
So I just throw it in my freezer, pre-freeze it for 24 hours, and then.
So then, like from this point, once we have them on the trays and you put them in the freeze dryer, about how long is this process?
Typically, most things are about 24 hours. I've had stuff go clear up to like 50 hours.
Wow.
So, it just depends on
What it is.
what it is and how easily the moisture is alleviated from the product.
And it basically tells you when it's done, right?
Yep.
Even easier. So this is just the bag that you showed me from this, right?
Yep.
Sweet. So that's going to be my next step. After it's all done here, I get to try to find those, huh?
Yeah, I've got plenty of them. I bought a whole bunch. There was a good deal on Amazon. I just bought a whole bunch. Push your start button. Put your stuff in. And everything's all automatic.
I like automatic.
And it'll tell you
Oops.
when everything's done. And
Slide it in, and when the time comes, you put it there, huh?
you put them in bags like this, and
Ah.
these are the Mylar bags.
So it looks like you vacuum sealed those too. With Mylar bags, can you vacuum seal or not as you choose?
You can vacuum seal, but you got to buy
Oh, the sealer.
a new device. Your regular vacuum sealers won't work with Mylar.
Okay.
You have to have special bags. So if you get a chamber vacuum, you can do both.
Awesome.
So if you do a chamber vacuum, they come out like this.
Okay. Cool. So now it's identified as freezing at 23 degrees, right? So now it's just a matter of letting it perk, right?
Yeah, I just waiting until it tells you to take it out.
There's them raspberries. Sweet, now we're gonna let it all camp out.
Get done and
So now it's just waiting on basically airing out the the chamber.
Yeah, it's just cooling the chamber down. So
Huh. What temperature does it need to get to inside before it actually starts the process?
negative 40 degrees.
Slightly chilly.
Yeah.
Cool. So now it's just a matter of waiting its process, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome.
So on this, instead of having the big vacuum thing, you can just use one of these.
That's a cool little contraption to reseal.
Yeah. You take out what you want and reseal it up.
So now you can see that I'm out here with my bees because Rick and I are going to exchange things. I'm going to give him this pint of honey for his willingness to help me use his freeze dryer. And so I'm going to go back up tomorrow and finish up the processing of the blackberries and the raspberries that got put in the freeze dryer. But he's also going to let me use the freeze dryer to freeze dry some pears. As you saw, he had some pears available that he did for himself. And I thought, I have a batch of pears that I just got, and that would be an easy, kind of quick way to get those taken care of. And I was thinking initially to have those, that I was going to can those. And now I thought, maybe I'll just freeze dry them. That would be simple and easy. And then I can put them in the Mylar bags and not have glass breakage potentially, which is something else to consider when you're preserving foods, is how do you want to preserve them? And like right now, there's so many things in the news with floods and earthquakes and that sort of thing, that how we preserve our food kind of comes into play in those instances, and how we can take them with us in case of an emergency, if we can take them with us. And in the case of freeze drying, it is so light and easy to take with that all you have to do in most parts is add water if you're going to reuse them. And so you don't even have to add water necessarily, like to the blackberries or the raspberries that I'm doing, or even the pears. You can just eat them as are. And so that's kind of the nice thing. But if you reconstitute things like stew or any meats, then you can add water to that. But again, you can get bottled water and mix it in there, which is easy peasy. So let's wait and see how they turn out, how our goods turn out tomorrow from the freeze dryer. But until then, the bees are sharing some of their honey with Rick. So here Rick is showing me how he fills his Mylar bags. And in this case, he decided to open up the gusset in the bottom of the bag and put this funnel in for the pears that we did. By having this funnel in there, it helps them kind of settle in better. And so that's why you can use it or not, depending on what you put in the bag. In the case of the blackberries, you might not need to use that because you could scoop it in a little easier. But with the pears, because they're an odd shape, it helps slide them in. So once Rick has put the pears in each of the bags, the next step is to be able to vacuum seal each of the bags. But he does put in, as you can see here, the oxygen absorber in each bag, one per bag. And by doing that, it helps keep the pears or whatever's in the bag most fresh for the longest time. And as you can see in a moment, he vacuum seals that container with a small contraption that helps with the lid. But he puts each bag, after settling them out, into the machine to the left, where sometimes he has to adjust it to make sure it seals right. But once he puts down the lid and he presses the button, it actually fully pulls all the oxygen out of the bag and just goes boom. You can see here how it just all of a sudden it just shrinks closed. And from here, once this is all vacuum sealed, he then will close it in another tool to his right. So you just wait until it notices, ooh, that's cool.
Something went wrong.
Oops. So then you get to try it again, and it will. If it doesn't work the first time, it usually happens again.
Yeah, something probably sucked up into the.
Oh, into the line.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Pack it down a little bit. The hardest thing is to not get any wrinkles. Right there where it's going to seal.
And as you'll see in a moment, this did actually seal the second time. And sometimes, like Rick said, it does take a second time to make sure it seals, but you have to make sure that area where it does do the sealing is nice and clean and clear. Otherwise, you'll have to do it a second or third time.
That looks better.
Second time's a charm. So this machine that he's using actually seals the bag from the point of sealing to the end of the bag. The point of sealing from this machine to the end of the bag is what the other sealer does. So this kind of does the vacuum packing, and then the other that just makes sure that it seals kind of in a double spot. Okay. So now that we're finishing up this part of sealing the food in the bags, there's actually a couple of different ways that you can store freeze-dried items in your house. You can either do them in the Mylar bags like we have here, or as you can see that Rick has also put them in canning jars. And so depending on how or when you're going to use them, you can put them in glass jars as well. But as you can see, he's even kept in both bags and jars. Well, thanks for stopping by Gyroscope Farm and the Traveling Homesteader to learn more about freeze drying. And I hope this helps you out to get started in freeze drying and putting some things on your shelf.